Welcome to Blow Water, podcast to express about the Malaysian issue. And
Okay.
I'm your host today, Aaron, and we are going to talk about the press freedom in Malaysia today. And that's a heavy topic, but anyway, today it's not me just talking to myself, and let's welcome to our honorable guest. Mr. Yap, please introduce yourself.
Honorable. I'm not honorable lah. Hi, my name is Kenn, and slashy. Most of my jobs are related to media. Part of me is in academic, but another part of me are still in the industry.
And just about fun fact as well, I've been following Ken's blog for a long time, and finally I realized that it's actually he's my lecturer. So this is
Yes.
a fun fact as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And well, today we're going to the overview of media environment in Malaysia.
Okay.
So as we know, press freedom, World Press Freedom Day is gonna be tomorrow. Today is 2nd of May, and then would you like to predict like our press ranking in Malaysia in this year will be improved or getting worse?
In 2023.
2024.
You mean in 2024?
Yep.
I think that we thought that the press freedom index will be slightly improved because of the changes of government. So if we analyze from 2018, where we can see our freedom index are slightly went up a bit because the then government, the PH government promised that they won't control too much when it comes to the media's expressions and things like that. And also we can see a lot of where I would say very honest critics on the media. Basically on TV or on radios or even online, people are criticizing the government. So we can see that is why we are predicting that the freedom index might be increased a little bit. But if we compare to the current government, we thought that we will see an absolute, or not saying that absolute, we will see improvement when it comes to freedoms, but you can see that the agencies, the departments that is related to medias and communications, you wanted to say that they are suppressing. No, but when it comes to, are they controlling, or are they using the words filtering, or using the words managing, using a lot of excuses. But then if you look into it, they are basically somehow controlling the expression.
Just controlling in a different way lah, like in a beautiful way. It's not like as straight as a previous PN.
They are not like how some of the governments or some of the countries, they are very obvious one. You cannot say this, which means that you can't say this. So there are no second thought for that. You are basically have to follow exactly as what the country said or the government said. But then Malaysia's currently is like, one of the example, you can't touch religious, you can't touch races, you can't touch the royal issues or methods. So by, when it comes to the definitions of you cannot touch certain kind of topics, well, some people will say that, if we don't touch, then we can control. But if you don't touch, that is equal to you are not allowed to talk about this kind of issue. So we are looking at the black and white or even the gray zones of, if we touch, then maybe we are open up for everyone to discuss about certain matter, freedom of expressions. But if we don't touch, we are looking into stabilizing the current society status, because we know that there are a lot of people are playing issues which is related to religions and race. So yeah, the gray areas of it.
So the gray area will be let the ruling party or government have the space whether they want to manipulate or want suppressing.
Well, you can say so.
Okay, thank you. And for the current media outlet structure in Malaysia, so can you provide an overview of the media ownership and control in Malaysia?
Well, I think that for any of the students who enroll themselves into mass comm studies in Malaysia, despite that you are in media, despite that you are in a specific field of communications, we have this very, I would say, typical knowledge. When it comes to media prima belongs to who, RTM supervised by who, Bernama supervised by who, Astro owned by who. I think that we have a very obvious questions. We're very obvious answers to it. But we also have to understand that the changes of media landscape nowadays, we are not no longer the century or the society or the community that only depends on those conventional medias. Well, in a very easy way to say so, no big jargon, you don't watch TV anymore. People don't really watch TV anymore. People don't really access to radio 24/7. So they are looking into internet. They are using internet, they are accessing themselves into World Wide Web to get information. So overview of the media in Malaysia, well, the conventionals are still owned by a certain people. Either they are rich men, either they are a very old parties, political parties or political alliances. But when it comes to internet, it is owned by, yes, partially it's still owned by, we are not talking about internet as a whole, we are talking about certain channels, a certain Facebook page or Instagram account that hold by a certain very important persons or even some media organizations. But generally, if you look into World Wide Web, it is owned by the people, because that's why you can see a lot of freedoms when they wanted to express whatever they want.
So you are the media practitioner. So for the overview of the media landscape now, so do you think that how do journalists or the media practitioners navigate issue related to the ownership? Are they will gonna be like self-censorship when they reporting some things like?
That is actually a good question. So if you look into print, we have been self-censored for so long time, and even until today also. Some of the conventional media like newspaper, they have Facebook account, they have Instagram account, they also do self-censor. Very obvious self-censor.
Can you provide any like
Cases
or example?
Like when they are touching a certain kind of issues that is related to royals, so they will just minimize the entire thing. They only mentions about, okay, these issues might be involving a certain royal period. They won't go further. So ends up the audience or the readers who read this news, they access to this news, they will get like very limited knowledge about that. They are trying to comprehend, but ends up they don't really get it. That is the self-censor. But if you look into what I always like to say, substream kind of media. Substream kind of media, I'm referring to those Facebook page that owns by random people that successfully trigger a lot of followers and attentions, like meme page and so on and so forth. I don't think they have self-censor.
Yeah.
I don't think they have self-censor. Maybe they don't really care about censorship. So what they do is they will just step onto the censored zone or those very sensitive zone. They will just do whatever they want in order to achieve more viewerships and engagement. But if you look into traditional, but if you look into the different stages of self-censored, for example, before 2018, when Barisan Nasional are still taking over the administrative power, they are still holding the power, then a lot of the TV stations or the radio stations, they will have a lot of self-censored. Like if they realize that the government has done something not so suitable for the people, for example, they will just say that, they will just, they won't talk about that. But then when Pakatan Harapan took over, you can see that there are a lot of radio stations when they are talking about how certain kind of policies that launched by the government, they will say, hey, this is something which is, they won't be like stepping into the government and say, hey, you did something wrong. They will just say that, oh, the government need to do something to improve. So they won't be like polishing the government shoes like that. They will just say that, oh, you need to improve. Maybe there are certain things that you need to consider. So we can see that. So the self-censor has decreased.
The degree of self-censor has decreased over the years.
Yes. But then when it comes to Perikatan Nasional, when they took over during the COVID time, unfortunately, it is quite hard for them to, control, because COVID is basically open up the entire door of World Wide Web. You are pushing everyone onto the internet without even luring them to join the internet. They just go in because it's COVID. Everyone has been locked down. during that time, even though the media choose not to self-censor because they know that it's very, very hard for the government to take any action. You see, during that time, the only thing that the government control is the news that is related to COVID. If you spread something that is basically is not true about diseases, spread of viruses and whatever, they will be like, okay, you cannot, okay, I will charge you and then I will bring you to court, I will penalize you. We have several cases during COVID. But then when it comes to criticizing the government, they don't really. So the newspaper and whatsoever, they will just do whatever they can, but they are not stepping into like say, okay, Muhyiddin government is not good. They are not there lah. But you can see that the degree of self-censorship, as what you said, decrease. But then now, yes, it goes back up.
Goes back out to the self-censorship.
Yes, you can see that certain people, when they wanted to, only the opposition side, or only the page, or only the media that owned by the oppositions, they will just don't care. They will just do whatever they want. They will just say whatever they want, they could. But then when it comes to conventional medias, right, no, they still self-censor in a sense because they know that since 2022, when the joint of Barisan Nasionals and Pakatan Harapan, at Putrajaya, they know that there are certain things that you should not touch because oppositions are riding on the religious matter. Opposition also steps on the racial issue, so they can't really do. They need to self-censor just to ensure that they don't go beyond the sensitive. So summary is like it goes down and then it goes back up. But we are talking about conventional. If you talk about social media pages, I don't think that they are self-censoring. Yeah, they just dump whatever they want.
Okay, so talking about the media, the government controlling the media, like take out the posts from collaborate with the tech giants, for example, like Facebook and TikTok. So the MCMC can take whatever. Seems like the MCMC can take the post whatever they like. Do you think this is a good phenomenon for the press freedom?
Okay, this is a very tough, very, very tough question that we need to always observe, questions ourselves again and get the latest answer for ourselves again. Because if you ask me, I'm a 50-50 in this issue. Number one, I mean, speaking from the standpoint of someone who is, contributing into media educations and communication, putting educations in universities, and also practicing media, and also practicing journalism. So, if you ask me, do I want them to control me? My very absolute and very clear answer is no. Because we are talking about freedom of expression, we are talking about fourth estate, we are talking about you need to give me my freedoms to report whatever that I want, to inform to the society. I mean, whoever that study journalism will understand such. But do we have a matured society to encounter or to face this kind of freedom? Simple questions. Is our society matured enough to understand? Well, this is the part where we talk about media literacies already. Whether do they understand the context that I'm trying to deliver to the society? So the another 50% of myself is, yes, MCMC need to do certain job to, to filter up, to control, or whatever that you call that, to ensure that the society can move synchronize with the pace. Media literacies have to go, the complications of the context, information context, media context, the complications of it. We have to move, at the same time. You cannot just say that, media education can slow down a bit, we let the media freedoms and expression goes. Cannot. Both have to move at the same time. That's why if we compare media educations that is related to media or in other countries, in the Westerns, they have been teaching their kids since primary school. If you look into Asia, Taiwan or even Hong Kong, these two regions or these two areas, they also emphasize on educations of media when they are young. Even though they are encountering some fake news issues currently in Taiwan, they have started their education since very young. And we are talking about cognitive educations. You teach students or you teach the kids to understand the media context. If you look into some of the very extreme country, I hesitate to name any, you know that there has been started the similar kind of educations to recognize how great my country is and whatsoever since very young. So the understanding of media context kind of education has started very young. Compared to Malaysian, do we learn anything about media education during primary school? Even though not primary school, secondary school? Did we learn anything? Nope.
In the public education system, no.
Nope. Unless that you choose to come to media studies or you come to communication study, then different story law. But then the so-called 12 years of 11 years of free educations by the government, we learn nothing about media educations. That is the problem.
So said that like we are not mature enough, so we kind of need to be control a little bit so that we won't go far from the maybe national interest or Malaysian rhetoric.
Yes, but then when it comes to the word control,
Not
I
control.
don't think that
I
is.
try to use the better words.
Yes, but we have no other words. If you use filter also, it is a kind of control also. Managing lor. Manage lor, then I think that is the most suitable words for that.
Protect our fragile society.
But you understand, right? The problem is the society is not matured. So that is the reason why we have a lot of scam cases, we have a lot of fake news cases. People trust whatever information that they receive. But if they are matured in the sense of matured means that their media literacy levels are very high, or I won't say very high, higher than what we are expecting right now, then I believe that we have lesser of scam cases or even money game cases or whatever cases. It will reduce. I won't say absolute disappear. It will reduce.
Alright.
The problem is we don't have such kind of educations.
Okay, thank you. And talking about the code of ethics for the journalists that recently, not recently, released
Couple of months ago.
couple of months ago, like February. So do you do you kind of endorse with the code of ethics for journalists? Or,
Do I endorse?
I mean, would you support or the? I mean, I don't know how to use the word but I kind of don't agree with the code of ethics that why need to release by the government, why the government need to tell us what to do, what not to do.
Okay, the code of ethics supposed to be released, I would say managed, announced, released by a non-governmental organization that work closely with the government. In this case, we are looking at the very, very long-awaited Media Council. Until today, we don't have that. If you have a Media Council, which is work closely with Ministry of Communications, Ministries of Digital, or whichever ministries that is related to, that need to do communication tasks, then I would say it is better. But currently, the Media Councils, which has been discussed and has been raised up again by Gobind Singh, our then communication ministers back in 2018, until today, we don't see any of it. Even though last year I attended a public event and I have a chance to ask a very simple question to our Deputy Minister Teo. So I asked her, when are you or when is the government going to table the media councils in the parliaments? I don't see the complications of setting up a media councils, but her questions to me is not promising. She said that it is in the progress. Everything is in the progress, but I don't see the complications because if we look into a few contexts, number one, the business sector, they don't want the journalists to say, use the media power to say bad thing about the corporate world, number one. The government also do not want the media to talk bad about the government or to spread wrong information about the government. And the opposition also don't want the governments or the media to talk bad about themselves. Because, you see, whichever that we say, what she said also correct. She said that we need to ensure that everything is in fair, because we cannot assure that we will be staying in the position as a government forever. So which means we need to, if the Pakatan Harapan turns up become opposition in future, and Perikatan Nasional become government, they will use the media power to control them also. So it's like karmic kind of stuff lah. And I would say that the media organization also do not want, they also wanted to uphold their journalistic punya quality. So they will ensure, what I'm, in my mind, maybe is a little bit very, positive, I would say very optimistic towards this. I will say that there are no further challenge to set up a media council as soon as possible. So to come back to the questions, whether the code of ethics, should I endorse or should I not? One, I'm still standing at the 50-50. Yes, because some of the journalists, first, either are they graduate from the relevance field, or they are just someone who know how to write, and then they join the media organizations, and then they started to write whatever they want. They would just say, freedom of expression, so I can do whatever I want. That's first thing. If you grad from journalism or any of the communication field, you will not simply use, or you will not simply craft those kind of article or the media pieces, because you know that every single thing that you crafted, publish, it will bring a certain kind of influence towards the society. So if you grad from there, you won't do it. But what we can see right now, a lot of the media's articles that we can see online are very obvious, either clickbait, either they are misleading, either they are not following the frameworks of the journalistic ethic. So if we look into such kind of issues, or if we look into current situations, I would say we need the code of ethics. But another part of me, it's the code of ethics should not be released by Ministry of Com.
Yep, correct. That's my point. I think that the code of ethics should be come after the media council, and not at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, because the government always say, we very eager, we have the intention want to set up a media council, but they come out of this kind of code of ethics. They make me feel skeptical about the government.
Okay, to be fair to the government, let's say we are helping the government to say something. Okay, you don't have the media council. That's why, but you still have to manage you need to control the qualities of journalism in Malaysia. So you release the code of ethics already. Then now you have to focus on setting up the media councils. So you park the entire code of ethics back to media councils instead of under MOC, Ministry of Communications. So we'll see lah.
Yeah.
Because we just completed first quarter of 2024
Yeah.
So there are 3 more quarters So we'll see what the ministries do.
So moving on, so we now talk about some censorship or legal restrictive laws in Malaysia, like towards the press or even media world. So what are the key laws and regulations in Malaysia that directly kind of impact the press freedom or journalistic activities?
Currently, we are PPPA. Currently, we still have the MCMC. I think this is the 2 main laws that restrict, or let's go mild a bit, not restrict. Setting up a certain kind of supervising. It seems to be a certain kind of obstacle for the media practitioners to do things. PPPA is no longer relevant. Come on, it's 2024.
Yeah.
If you look into the definitions, if I go very creative in defining the law, I have a printer at home. I'm not owning a media company. I have a printer at home, which is a monochrome printer that it can print or it can Photoshop 100 copies per minute, let's say. I'm also, actually, if you look into it, I also need to be supervised under PPPA. Correct or not? Because I also have the tendency to, print the 100 copies and then I can distribute to everyone. So, which means that nowadays PPPA doesn't really, it's no longer relevant. That's one. Okay, MCMC is the one that I do not know how to give a very absolute 100% answer, because as what we discussed just now, we currently, I think that we still need this law to ensure that our emergent society, when it comes to media literacies, our emergent society, they know what are the contents that they can focus on, they know what kind of contents they should ignore and whatsoever. Currently, we don't have that. So I think that MCMC is irrelevant now.
So can you discuss any like recent examples like they using this kind of legal restrictions to limit the press freedom in Malaysia? Not for the current government like the previous the age cases or the Malaysian Kini.
I can share my personal experience,
Yep.
which is not reviewed in the public. Previously, I was working under a magazine. Within a magazine group, there's a group that they are basically publishing magazines monthly, weekly. So there's one sister magazine. Sister magazine means that the magazine that is not sisters, are brother magazine, which is basically under the same magazine group. They are a political magazine, which means that the entire magazine, Chinese, they are focusing on political issues and current affairs. So you can see half of the entire magazine talks about Malaysia political situations. That was still under Najib, or during that time was still under Najib. So if I don't record it wrongly, the editors in charge was called to KDM to relook into the content, relook into the cover page, the content. So that's obviously PPPA because it's magazine and it's before 2018. During my time, it's between 2010, 2011, 2012, during that particular time. So I was like thinking that this is very ridiculous. One, you have been allowing the entire magazine group to publish content. You also, during that time, because I still remember Najib announced that ISA will be revoked.
Internal Security Act.
Internal Security Act in 2010 or 2011, I've forgotten, during that time. So they are playing the cards of optimistic. They wanted to be a very, you can say that they wanted to be Madani government also back then. So I was like thinking that it's very ridiculous because it's created a huge hoo-ha in our magazine group because I was tasked in another magazine to do current affairs critics. My job is to interview ministers and deputy ministers to talk about the issues like, price hike issues, petrol issues, whatever. So it will critiques the government. So one, you are allowing here, but then you don't allow there. So it's like quite complicated and quite, I would say quite vague lah. One, you don't allow the magazine that's specifically talking about political issues, but yet you only allow a certain sections in magazine to do so. So that's one. And my second thing is, we have MCMC already because the MCMC was introduced in 1998. So I was in TV stations between the year of 2012 to 2017. So during that time, we already have the issues where Najib's wife Rosmah Mansor was related to certain kind of issue. So my TV stations back then produced several TV programs to talk about current issues and also political situation in Malaysia. One of them is debates between DAP and MCA. There was live on
I think I watched that before.
Yes. So we were caught by the government because Mina Prima was owned by UMNO. So we were called by the government and said this cannot be continued. All right. So the show calls off, and Rosmah case was featured on certain kind of news section. And if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not recalled wrongly, someone from a certain office called to the TV station and said, no, this report cannot go up. So that is the reason why the entire TV station, especially when it comes to news desk, are all self-censored already. They know that there's this kind of issue, or even though it's going to trigger a lot of attentions, people will be viewing, people will be watching, they will say, cannot, let's take it off. So editor-in-chief was like, they know already what should do and what should not. Other than that, there are plenty of cases. Well, Malaysia Kini is one of the cases under MCMC. So because that is also something that I think it is quite ridiculous, because It's not Malaysia Kini which published the news, but it's basically the
Comments.
commenter. So since then, that's why I said the self-censor punya degree went up. All those newspapers started to realize that, hey, it is no longer only the contents of mine going to create a certain kind of issue. Maybe the comments by a certain netizen will create a certain kind of issue. That is the reason, if you realize a couple of weeks ago, before our recording today's, there's the SOX issue, the SOX issue where most of the Mandarin news Facebook page, they close the comment
They close the
section.
comment sections. Yeah, correct.
See, this is also considered self-censor. So these are many cases. Even though we obtained the independence for 60 over years, but then we still have this kind of issue.
So even now, we also, I would say, rank very high in Southeast Asia, because the press freedom index, we actually ranked 73 last year, 2023. So it's like a 30 or 40 jump. So, but our law is still existing there. So it's basically
Irony.
Yeah, very ironic. And then I feel that despite the government not using the laws but to suppress the press freedom, but they can do anytime.
They still have, currently the government is like, I can do one, you don't trigger me, I just don't want to do right now. So I alert you already, I warn you already, don't do. So this is the current feeling, The moment when all those the laws that we mentioned just now has been revoked successfully, then that is the total freedoms already. But as I said, it's quite difficult for Malaysians at this very moment.
Because we still have, despite from the PPPA or the MCMC Communication and Multimedia Act, we still have a lot of very vague definitions, like the Seditions Act, which is 1948, which is set before independence.
Yes,
I would say
it's still practical until today.
Yeah, I would say it's quite outdated law. Maybe states should revoke the laws, abolish the law, or maybe make it better.
Like if I'm standing at the positions or the standpoint of we have immature society at this moment from the perspective of media literacy, that is the reason why they might be stepped into a very bad zone, they might be saying something wrong. I think currently the law serve a purpose of reminding or alerting or warning. Just that, as you said, it's 1948. That is like over 60, 70 years ago. So the society 70 years ago, and comparing with the current society, is two different society. So the lawmakers in the parliament need to, if you wanted to keep it, let's say, I only can say that, better you revoke. But then when you revoke, if someone did something, so how are we going to penalize them, right? How are we going to teach them a lesson? So if you think that this law is still relevant, since you are the lawmaker, can you redefine that? Because you have the parliament, we elect you to do something, so those are considered steps that can make our country better.
So now we already talked about the press freedom in Malaysia. So how do you urge for the audiences to know their rights on this kind of press freedom, what they can do to make the Malaysia press freedom will be better, or even the more media literated society?
Okay, this is what I'm doing for the past, I never realized it. I've been doing this since 2020. Pushing media literacy.
This is why I followed you for a long time.
I've been pushing media literacy since 2020 until, I never expect 3 years plus already. There are many steps that we can do. Okay, then we don't talk about government. Government, what you have to do is, you really have to come out with a very solid and effective media educations. Either you integrate with the current education systems and maybe you come up with one more subjects, or maybe you integrate that, or let's say you mewajibkan or whatever lah. So that is one thing. But speaking about us as a random individuals, number one, please always remember, every single information that you receive, you always have to put a 50-50 measurements, 50 real, 50 fake. And you have to do validations. Validation means that you have to really go and check whether it is a real one or bad one. If you started to do that every day, or I'm not saying that every day, every single messages, maybe you suspect one messages, it definitely deserves your time to go and check. If you continuously doing the same thing, every time when you receive a certain kind of message, your media literacy's knowledge or the degree of media literacies of yourselves will be increased. And when you realize that you're able to, capture this kind of knowledge, right, you help other people. You help not opening up a big class and then you go and teach. You might be wrong in certain way, but at least that you become I always advocate we need a first aid unit people in our family so that they know how to save us when we are in emergency. We also need a first aid media persons, or those who don't know how to differentiate whether it's real news or fake news in the house also. So if you are someone, then you go and help your friend, your family member. By how? I assume that you would definitely have more than one family group chat in your WhatsApp or WeChat or whatever.
Yep.
You be the bad guy. You be the bad guy and say that, hey, auntie, these informations might be wrong. You don't go so fierce and so, you just wanted to have show your authority, show that you are very smart. You don't do in that way. You just go there and write. If you realize that this message is basically something wrong, you just say that, hey auntie or uncle, hey auntie, this message might be wrong. I have checked for you already, so this is the real thing. Even though your auntie will hate you, trust me, your auntie will hate you because you are the one that always goes against him. But look into this. You are basically helping the rest of the family member to understand what is real and what is not. And the auntie will slowly know that, hey, since that my niece and nephew has been reminding me of such, I need to check first before I share. If this snowball can grow, it can grow bigger. And
then it will affect our press freedom?
yes, not affect our press.
Directly.
We won't be able to affect the press. The press side, the journalists and the media organization, if you choose, I know that media business is basically a very good business. Come on, we all understand this. Media business simply defined as if you are someone who is creating content on Facebook. You know that people will pay you to create content. You know you have been enjoying the so-called influence and you have been enjoying the benefits from it. But you have to remember that you are very influential, because the moment when more subscriber comes into your page and share your comments, your stuff, right, you know that you have a responsibility to ensure all sort of information that you spread is correct. So you have to attend media, you have to attend and whatsoever, enroll yourself into media ethics or media educations or media literacies kind of workshops or whatever courses that is available, well, in the campus or in the universities. Because you need to make sure your people or your team member understand how influential you are. I always say that we can't, if you ask me these questions, I cannot say that the society need to do this, the rest no need. The government need to do something, specifically education ministries need to do something, Ministry of Communication need to do something. The stakeholders, the media organizations, the media practitioners, the non-government organization, the non-profit organizations, the school, the entire system need to work together. If not, one people walk so fast, the rest are not following also, it is useless. And for the media students, I think that whoever that enroll into media and communication, they thought this is going to be a very relaxed kind of subject, relaxed kind of programs. But those who enroll onto this program, you realize that it is not. If you spend some time and look into the academic, all sort of different knowledges and subjects that you learn, you realize that every single thing that you do by using media is very powerful. So if you are media students, you should always remind yourself that, hey, whatever that you are doing, whatever that you are learning, that you are doing in future, is basically bringing influence to the society directly. That's all what I can say.
Yep, I think that's a wrap for our interview.
Yay!
And thank you once again, thank you,
you.
Mr. Kenn, for
sharing my.
Yeah.
I'm only sharing lah. I can't say that I'm a expert. I don't call myself an expert. Whatever that I'm doing is basically is a sharing of
Like
knowledge.
sharing your own experience to us lah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.